Okay, we're ready to start. Will you join me in the salute to the flag? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the secretary call the roll, please?
Chair Machin,
Here.
Vice Chair Ebley,
Here.
Commissioner Durr, Commissioner Jones,
Present.
Commissioner Liang, Commissioner Lopez,
Here.
Commissioner Quill,
Here.
Commissioner Durr, and Commissioner Liang are excused. We have quorum.
Thank you. Will you administer the oath, please?
Those wishing to speak, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this body will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Consent items are considered routine in nature and may be enacted in one motion. All public and non-public hearings will be open at one time. Any item may be discussed separately upon request of a member of the Planning Commission or member of the public. Do we have a consent agenda?
Yes, Chair and Commissioners and members of the public. There are actually 4 items on tonight's Planning Commission consent calendar. The first is the approval of the February 13th, 2018 Planning Commission minutes, and staff is recommending approval. Item number 2 is an extension of time, 1-year extension of time for tentative tract map 16794, which is located on the north side of Palm Avenue, north of Verdemont Drive. This is a 18.5 acre parcel, which will be subdivided into 44 lots for the construction of 43 homes and a detention basin. Staff is recommending approval of the 1-year time extension for the tentative map. Item 3 is a conditional use permit, and this is a request for a new drive-through restaurant of approximately 4,300 square feet on a 1-acre parcel. The address for the proposed project is 1056 East Hospitality Lane. Staff is recommending approval of the drive-through facility, and that is conditional use permit 17-24. Number 4 on the consent calendar is a conditional use permit as well, conditional use permit 17-27, and it's a request to develop and operate a 3-story motel on a 20,700 square foot parcel at 258 East Redlands Boulevard, and staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit with conditions. Those are the 4 consent calendar items, and staff recommends approval of all of them.
Any questions, comments? Does anyone have anything to say about the consent calendar? Yes.
I have 2 questions, if I may, Mark. For item number 4, what is the name of the motel that is wanting to be established there?
I'll actually let the case planner answer that question.
Good evening. We don't have a user yet, but the applicant is in the audience if you want to ask any questions as it relates to the
I just wanted
project.
to know what motel.
There has not one been identified yet.
Okay. The other item is for number 3, conditional use permit 17-24. Do we know what drive-through restaurant is interested in establishing there?
Yes, Commissioner, that would be a Panera restaurant.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Public hearing items. The Planning Commission will first hear a report from staff, and then the public hearing will be opened. The applicant will have an opportunity to speak. Next, members of the public will be allowed to speak. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak must be sworn in and also fill out a request to speak form. Forms are located on the table near the door. When your name is called, come forward and speak into the microphone. Say and spell your name and give your address for the taped record. After all have spoken, the applicant will be allowed to respond. The public hearing will then be closed and the Planning Commission will begin deliberations and make a decision. All actions except general plan amendments and amendments to the Municipal Development Code are final action unless an appeal is filed and fee paid within 15 days to the Community Development Department. If you challenge the resultant action of the Planning Commission in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described in this agenda, or in written correspondence delivered to the Community Development Department at or prior to the public hearing. And that brings us to item number 5, conditional use permit 17-05 and public convenience or necessity letter 17-07. May we have the staff report, please?
Good evening, Commissioners. Yes, item number 5 involves a conditional use permit for a service station that has 8 pump islands, a convenience store that contains approximately 3,000 square feet, also proposing or requesting, I should say, an ABC license type 20 for beer, wine off sale. Also looking to propose a drive-through car wash approximately 2,400 square feet. There will also be, there's an existing commercial building that's going to be redone and expanded upon to have a total of 5,434 square feet. Project site is located on the southeast corner of West Highland Avenue and North Muscoobiabe Drive. It contains approximately 1.85 acres and it is located in a commercial general zone. An aerial shows the location of the site. Again, we have Highland Avenue is on the top portion of the slide, and Muscoobiabe is on the left-hand side. Surrounded by commercial uses. This is the zoning, again identifying the site, and the surrounding uses and or zones are also commercial general. Next, we'll have a series of slides looking at the property. This is looking southeast on Highland and Muscoobiabe. There's a former Payless shoe store building there that will be removed. This is on Highland looking towards the southwest. Again, the Highland Medical Center building that is there, that's going to be renovated, and there'll be an addition to the back of that building, and it'll be reconstructed. The fast food restaurant is also going to be demolished with the Payless shoe store. This is looking east down Highland Avenue, and this is looking towards the west. Now the site plan, access will be taken from both Highland Avenue, Muscoobiabe, and 21st Street to the, 21st Street does not have an access anymore. But there will be the drive-through car wash that will be on the southern portion of the site. And you look at the lower portion of the slide, that's where the expansion to the existing commercial building will be. And the canopy, the pump islands will be there in the northwest corner of the site. And as you can see, there's the landscaping that's around the perimeter of the property. The floor plan of the convenience store. These are the elevations of the site. The previous one was a convenience store, the car wash, and this is the commercial building that's going to be reconstructed. This is the canopy for the service station. As I mentioned, the property also involves a request for a Type 20 license. As what had been mentioned in some of the prior meetings, we have been working with the police department on how these CUP applications are requested or processed through the police department. They look at the area and kind of statistical information, kind of some of the other similar uses or existing licenses. And that's where they focus on their review of it. In the past, they have been looking at applicant-specific as part of the review process. That is no longer the case. What they will do is they give their recommendation. In this particular case, Police Department has recommended approval subject to the standard conditions that we have for ABC-related licenses. And one of the conditions of approval is that should it be approved, they would be required to go through the operator's permit and the background and that process. Again, this shows the tract, so you'll see the kind of an overlay of the zoning map. The bold black line is essentially the census tract boundaries, and those numbered squares show the surrounding ABC licenses in the area. As we evaluated the project, the site development does comply with the city's general plan and development code. We'll take this underutilized parcel and put it into productive use. The police department does support the approval. There have been conditions of approval that have been added to it, like I mentioned, the mitigation related to alcohol-related issues or problems, I should say. There also is that standard 6-month review that we've been adding after the certificate of occupancy for a 2-year period. And there also are traffic mitigation measures. There was a traffic study that was prepared for this. It outlined a series of mitigation measures, primarily fees, impact fees, and they were also involved in the location of the driveways to ensure that the accessibility to the site would be adequate in a safe manner. Our recommendation that the Planning Commission adopt the categorical exemption as an infill project and approve the conditional use permit and public convenience or necessity letter based on our facts of findings and subject to our recommended conditions of approval. I'd be glad to answer any questions. We do have the applicant and representative here in the audience that could answer any of your project or business related questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? Yes.
Hi.
Oliver.
Oliver. It's going to be on the corner then where the Payless shoe store was and next door the Highland. Does it also cover, there's an empty lot behind the Payless? Does it go into that area as well?
That is correct. So it'll go all the way, there's the aerial, so it does go all the way back to 21st Street.
So some will front Highland and some will front
Yes.
Moose Kubiabi?
That's correct.
Okay. Because you mentioned the alcohol, it's not just the alcohol. For that commercial development on that intersection is the entranceway to Moose Kubiabi and the Community Neighborhood Association. So it's kind of like an entryway. And it's a good thing because I'm sure that there are many residents there that would want that. But the other issue that they also have are transients, people selling stuff on the sidewalk, homeless individuals and so forth. And that association has been working extensively with already some of the businesses there to avoid some of those problems and so forth. So I don't say that it's not a bad project for that because it does enhance that intersection entranceway into the Moose Kubiabi neighborhood, but that would be a concern. So you mentioned that someone will be, or they're going to be doing a 6-month review. Who does the review actually?
We do, the planning division.
And that review would be everything is in compliance?
That's correct.
Okay.
So we would also work with the police department in this particular case, alcohol related, because they have their conditions, that are included, and so we would work there's some monitoring, if you will. So we would meet with them and say, well, okay, have there been any crime-related, alcohol-related issues at those locations as a result of the proposed use? So there would be that dialogue, and if there's something that cannot be resolved, then that's when we would come to the Planning Commission and see what the next possible steps
would be. The owner and or developer be willing, should the neighborhood association, because they try to extend a welcome to businesses, because that communication then, if there are concerns or problems or whatever, I don't know if the owner or the developer is here, are they agreeable to having the community, which is the Neighborhood Association for Moose Kubiabi? They already have relationships with the Shell, with Stater Brothers, with other businesses along there to entertain a communication if there are some problems that they see. Because they also, and we would look forward to that, I'm saying we because I belong to that neighborhood association, as we do beautification and cleanup. That empty lot behind that will front Musqueam, it's always been a sore spot because a lot of litter accumulates there. So we're hoping, okay, all right, very good. The other question that I have, Oliver, is, of course, you know, there's a shell catty corner to where that gas station is going to be,
Correct.
and probably less than 500 feet is another gas station, which I think is the USA. Is that any concerns in terms of
None that has been
traffic
raised.
or anything?
No,
It doesn't, you know,
there was none that.
like it's not too close?
No, not
Okay.
that we've identified, no.
All right then. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? If not, I'll ask the developers and the owners to come up. I would say all three of you should come up and answer any questions that we might have. Please state your name and addresses.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ahmad Gaderi with ANS Engineering. We're the architect of the project.
My name is Maurice Marouf. I'm owner.
My name is Gabi Jabour. I'm a partner, and I have extensive experience in not just developing but operating these types of businesses. So this is nothing new to us. We have a lot of experience to back it up to ensure a higher probability of success.
Thank you. You have any comments regarding the questions that were asked?
Well, just to let you know that staff has been great to work with during the past number of months, and with their guidance, hopefully we have a project before you that's, as staff mentioned, complies with all the development standards. And we are proud of the project that with their help, we've been able to bring before you. As far as the operational questions, both the gentlemen have multi-site operators, and they're a part of the community, and they love to start this project and beautify underdeveloped site, and they'll be part of the community to assist with any issues that might come up, and as they mentioned. So, and we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Good. Do you have any concerns with the conditions of approval?
No, sir. We have reviewed all the conditions.
Good.
And we have no problem complying with the conditions.
Anything else? I guess that's all we have.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm ready to entertain a motion.
I'd like to make the motion that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 2018-007, adopting the categorical exemption and approving conditional use permit 17-05, and the public convenience or necessity letter 17-07, based on the findings of fact and subject to the recommendations and conditions of approval.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 6 is a conditional use permit number 17-15 and public convenience or necessity letter. And may we have the staff report, please?
Of course. Thank you, Commissioners. Item number 6 also involves a proposed service station with 8 pump islands, a convenience store, approximately 3,600 square feet, with the proposed ABC Type 20 license, and a drive-through restaurant that will be attached to the convenience store that will contain approximately 1,900 square feet. Property is located at 895 West Mill Street. It contains approximately 1.17 acres, and is located within the industrial light zone. An aerial of the property shows that it be on the south side of Mill Street, and the 215 freeway runs along the eastern boundary of the property. I Street is to the left or the west. Again, here's the zoning for the surrounding area. Again, it's industrial light. We do have a portion of the corner of Mill and I that is general commercial. And again, the freeway to the right hand or the east side of the property, and it's right near the off-ramp. This is looking towards the southeast off of Mill Street. This is looking southwest on Mill. This is looking towards the east along Mill Street, towards the freeway. And this is looking in the opposite direction or towards the west on Mill Street. That's I Street? Yes. And so you can see we do have a Shell station on the south side, and there's a donut shop to the north side of the site. Shows the floor plan of the convenience store with the fast food restaurant, drive-through restaurant along the front along the freeway side of the site. The pump islands will be off of I Street, and you will gain access. There will be 2 driveways on I Street and 1 along Huff Street. That's on the southern boundary. There will be no access off of Mill Street. The layout of the convenience store and the fast food or the drive-through restaurant. Rendering of the property with the canopy and the convenience store and restaurant in the background, and kind of a zoom-in shot of the convenience store and restaurant. Again, this is what requires a public convenience necessity letter. This is one of those tracks, if you recall, we had, Elizabeth may help you with the pronunciation, La Suteadora, where we had a market that was off sale for that particular store. But this is a rather large census tract, 124, goes, up, down Hospitality Lane, goes quite a distance. So if you look at the exhibit here, it identifies those similar alcohol-related uses in the area, and the large circle kind of on the upper center of the exhibit kind of shows where the proposed site is. This project also complies with the general plan and the development code. Again, taking a vacant lot and getting productive use. This project was also reviewed by the police department. We included their report and their analysis in the staff report, and their findings also included their recommendation. As with the other project, there are alcohol-related mitigation measures included. We do have the 6-month review as part of this, and there also are the traffic mitigation measures that were included as a result of a traffic study that was prepared and approved by the city's traffic engineer. And our recommendation is for the adoption of Resolution 2018-08, adopting the categorical exemption and approving conditional use permit and the public convenience and necessity letter based on the findings of fact, subject to recommended conditions of approval. I'd be glad to answer any additional questions. The applicant's representative is here if you have any questions regarding the operation or the development of the site. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got one question. Yeah, Oliver, can you go back to the site plan again? I want to see, are you going to have an entrance and exit on both I Street and Mill Street?
No, there will be no driveways at all on Mill Street.
There are no driveways on Mill?
That is correct.
Okay, very good. That answers it.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Hearing none, I'll ask the developers to come forward and make any presentation you would like to make.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Dave Bullen, and I'm the designer for the project.
Good evening. My name is Amit Kumar. I'm the owner.
And just to start out, that we've been working extensively with staff on this project. It basically has been kind of a year in the making, mainly because of the traffic study that we had to do. Staff has been very helpful in bringing us to this point, and we'd like to thank them for that. And we've reviewed all the development requirements, and we don't see it with some minor adjustments. We don't see any issues along those lines. So if anybody has any questions, more than happy to answer them for you.
No doubt it's going to be a 24-hour.
Yeah, the gas would be a 24-hour, yes. The other portion, we don't think it would be 24 hours. We don't have an exact tenant on that portion yet, but that would be more of like a 6 to 10, 6 to 11 type thing.
Thank you.
What type of businesses do you expect to have in there?
Well, something along the line of, it wouldn't anything be major, something would maybe, they do sandwiches. It could be, a donut shop, it would just be or a coffee shop. It would be just something small for takeout, basically.
The only one requesting the ABC license would be is it a 7-Eleven? Is that what it is? Just
That's
a
what we're
7-Eleven, no other
proposing.
businesses in that complex, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that answers our questions.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. So I will call for a motion.
I'll make a motion. I would like recommend the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 2018-008, adopting the categorical exemption and approving conditional use permit 17-15 and public convenience or necessity letter 18-02 based on the findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions of approval.
Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Commissioners.
much. Item 7 is a conditional use permit number 17-22. May we have the staff report, please?
Yes. Item number 7 is conditional use permit 17-22. The proposed project is a request to allow for the development, establishment, and operation of a restaurant with a drive-through approximately containing 2,237 square feet and a multi-tenant retail building containing approximately 2,978 square feet on a parcel that's approximately 0.67 acres. The project site is located at 2855 North Waterman Avenue within the commercial general zone. Here's the location map of the project. As you can see, to the north, you have some commercial properties. To the east, you have some residential, and then to the west, you have a commercial office land use with, there's actually existing residential neighborhood. And then to the south, you have existing residential neighborhood. Here's an area map of the project site. To the north of the project site, there's an existing convenience store, La Bodega, and also a single-family residential neighborhood. To the east of that, there's single-family residential, and there's a vacant lot as well. And then to the west of that, there's single-family residential, and then there's also an existing mobile gas station. The proposed project will transform this underdeveloped, underutilized vacant site into a development that will meet the city's commercial needs in accordance with the goals and policies of the general plan. The proposed drive-through restaurant is a Cowboy Jr. Burgers and Barbecue. The proposed hours are from 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. There's going to be a manager on site with 4 employees, 4 shifts, and they're estimating approximately 4 shifts. The employees of the Cowboy Jr. will use various types of transportation to include a bus transit line, carpool, bicycles, and any other type of transportation. The multi-tenant retail building, it's composed of 3 commercial units. The minimum square footage for one of the units, it's 945 square feet. The maximum is 985 square feet of leasable space. There are some traffic impacts as it relates to this site. A traffic impact analysis was submitted to the city's traffic engineer, and it analyzed the existing impacts on the existing transportation system. The city traffic engineer did accept and review the traffic impact analysis and was subject to mitigation measures and Caltrans requirements to include on Waterman Avenue and 30th Street to modify the existing traffic signal timing to provide protected left turn phasing at the eastbound and westbound approaches, to optimize traffic signal coordination at the interchange. The project itself will be conditioned for the fair share of these improvement plans. This is looking north onto the site. This is looking south onto the site and some of the abutting residential neighborhood. This is looking south onto the project site as well as some of the abutting residential neighborhood. And then this is looking west onto the project site. This is the existing site plan of the proposed project. To the north of the drive-through restaurant, there is an existing block wall that's 6 feet high. That would be right here. And there's also going to be a 10-foot setback landscape buffer in addition to that to mitigate some of the noise impacts upon the existing residential property. Here we have the elevations of what the Cowboy Jr. restaurant is going to look like. Here's the existing floor plan. The proposed elevations for the retail tenant spaces. And then the proposed floor plan for the 3 commercial units. This is a conceptual landscape plan. As you can see, there is going to be a proposal for a landscape buffer and then with some additional trees in order to be able to mitigate some of that noise and coming from the existing project, from the proposed project site. With that, the Planning Division recommends that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 2018-009, adopting the categorical exception pursuant to section 1533 of infill development projects for conditional use permit 17-22 and approving conditional use permit subject to the aforementioned conditions of approval. If you have any questions, I do have the applicant and he's able to answer any of your questions as well.
Thank you.
You're
I would
welcome.
like to point out, Chair, we also have a letter. If,
Yes, sorry, thank you, Mark. Yes, there was a letter of opposition. You should have a copy of that letter for your records.
Do we need to read that letter to the public?
I don't believe that it needs to be. It has been introduced into the record. Maybe Elizabeth can briefly highlight a few of the issues, but I don't think the entire letter needs to be read in, no.
Okay. I'm not sure if she's here, but I can provide just a quick review in terms of her concerns.
Yeah, she said she wasn't able to make it, but she did send the letter in, and Elizabeth can certainly summarize a few of her concerns.
And some of the concerns that she had was in regards to the existing traffic impact that currently the area, vehicular traffic that the current area experiences, as well as the pedestrian concerns in terms of individuals being able to cross the location from one side to another side. She wasn't specific in terms of the intersections, but she did mention that was a concern of her, as well as that there is a direct elementary school and middle school that use the main north and west east crossing there at the intersections. And so that was one of her concerns regarding that, as well as just the extreme lighting and loitering and other speed variations that they experienced there on Waterman within that intersection. Yes.
Did the police weigh in terms of the traffic? What did they say in terms of the project, or if anything at all?
The police didn't weigh in. There wasn't a ABC proposed as part of the project, so there was we did not forward this over to the police department due to that
And
fact.
the crossing that Mrs. Cisneros is referring to, that is not the one right at the freeway. It's what street is that? 21st? It's
21st
Street?
Yeah. Let me go back to an aerial view. There's 29th and Country Club Lane. 21st would be a little bit more south of that. Yeah, unfortunately, I did not have that 28th Street intersection on there.
And tell me again, I know you stated that something was going to be modified with the traffic signal to mitigate some concerns.
Yes, they were going to be doing some mitigation on Waterman Avenue and 30th Street to mitigate some of the, let me get that information. They're going to modify the traffic signal timing to provide protected left turn facing at the eastbound and westbound approaches, and then also optimize the traffic signal coordination at the interchange. The applicant may be able to provide you a lot more detail in terms of those mitigation measures.
Yes.
As far as the retail that's going in there, along with the fast food chain, how many parking spaces are available on that lot?
On that lot, there is going to be proposed. Let me get that information. There's going to be 30 stalls proposed, and then 2 stalls would be for ADA, and one of the ADA would be van accessible. You're welcome.
Any other questions? I have one. I didn't see a letter of review by Caltrans in your staff report. Has there been a letter from Caltrans?
There has been a letter from Caltrans. They did provide some information in regards to correcting some of the traffic concerns, but one of their concerns was in regards to the fair share, which it's going to be conditioned that the project does provide the accurate fair share on the proposed development. I'm able to give you a copy of that. I apologize, I did not include that in the report.
Thank you. Did you have any comments, Larry, on the traffic? No. Okay. Well, if there's no more questions from the commission, I'll ask the developer to make his presentation.
Good evening. It's on? Thank you. John DeFrenza, I'm the architect for the project, and second time working on the project, actually. I also have Bill Koonsman. I'm sorry, I've got a complete blank right now. Let me take my glasses off, I can see. Bill Koonsman, our traffic engineer, is here also to be able to address in detail some of the specifics of the traffic report, which I think at our DPRC, the pre-meeting to this. Thank you, DRC. I made my best efforts to give direct answers and felt that it would be best to have Bill here to give us better answers to the issues. I thank again everybody for your time. 2008, we went through the review process and then advanced to council for approval. At that time, this design had only a 5-foot landscape buffer between the residential and the drive-through lane. Through this period and working with staff, we felt it was better to improve that and increased it to 10 feet of landscaping, creating a better buffer on that drive-through lane to that residence. And the retail building was at the property line. We pulled it off 3 feet. And both of these design solutions are a result of staff's engagement to our thought process. And that 3 foot gives us the ability to stay on site to be able to mitigate and control any maintenance for the wall of the retail building. The increase in landscaping was significant for the property. The reduction in square footage was pretty significant as well. Yet with those two changes and the favorable interest rates to be able to build between 2008 and now, the project is still a viable project to move forward with. Other site changes, modifications, little tweaks have resulted in, we believe, a better flow for this property. Discussions with the trash service also resolved some issues of access. And not to correct Elizabeth, but we do have 3 handicap stalls instead of 2. One that serves straight from the sidewalk through the site to the Cowboy property, and then 2 at the retail building. The 3-tenant potential might end up with as 2 tenants, but all 3 tenants are under 1,000 square feet. So the impact of these businesses that can fit in 1,000 square feet are small footprint structures. So you have a very small scale ratio. You don't have 10 people all coming to a little 900 square foot business. So that's the concept, is try to minimize that traffic vehicularly to those businesses and cater to a more neighborhood type of business in that realm. I'm here for any questions that you may have. The developer here as well. And so, again, thank you.
Thank you. I have some questions for your traffic engineer, if you could answer them. That whole 2 blocks there by the freeway, it backs up all over the place. Can you elaborate on what changes they're going to make to the timing of those lights to try and get the flow of traffic to increase?
Okay, up at 30th Street, which is just above the 210, the first intersection north of the 210, and they're improving they're putting left turn arrows and improving the signal timing, which would help the backup. Then the second improvement would be on 29th, which is the street on the north side of the project. It does not warrant a signal. It was tested to see if there's a signal warranted. But we're recommending a keep clear type zone, and those can be in a couple 3 ways. One way is you just paint keep clear on the pavement across the intersection, and that's usually enough. But if it doesn't work, and that's just a T intersection, so it's a small intersection, I should say. But if it doesn't, if you need more than that, then you go into what I call crosshatch. So you basically paint a box, and then crosshatch it and put keep clear out in the middle. Those work pretty good. They do work. So that's what's recommended there. So that's kind of the 2, I believe, addresses what you're talking about.
Yes, I have a question for the traffic engineer. Would you sort of give us an overview of the traffic patterns in this area, especially coming off the freeway on the eastbound off-ramp? That ramp gets very congested at times. And any traffic turning south is kind of in trouble before they get off the freeway. And I'm just wondering what's going to happen when that thing is running at capacity.
Well, we looked at it, and per staff's request, we used what we call standard techniques for evaluating the capacity and the volume. And so to speak, the volume to capacity ratio anymore. We talk about delay, how much delay occurs in an intersection for the average car. So, and the techniques are getting kind of sophisticated. They're pretty good. Bob Wirtz was someone that way back implemented these procedures, but they're good procedures. And so that's how we analyzed it. And the conclusion was it does work with the other two mitigations I talked about earlier.
Is it your intent to have the traffic turn left onto 29th and then into the property and then go down to the south end of the drive-through and come back? How will that traffic be handled?
We don't expect the 29th entrance to be the dominant point of entry.
Yeah.
We expect Country Club to be a better flow through and into the drive-through lane. Not to say that people won't come in from 29th, but I think with experience and use, you'll find a better flow, and people will find that it'll be a lot easier to enter a little further away from the freeway, make that left turn, and come in and enter the drive-through lane, which we expect to be the dominant use. Most of the time, drive-through facilities, 60% of sales comes from that drive-through use.
My question is, people coming off the freeway, especially people that are driving through and they're just pulling off to get to your restaurant and they don't know the traffic patterns, I'm wondering how they would know to turn left on the Country Club. Would there be some way to sign that? Because that left turn lane onto 29th is going to be clobbered, I can guarantee it. Is there some way you could sign that to direct traffic down to Country Club? Like enter here or something?
I would hesitate to put signage because you wouldn't really see the sign on our property because there would be other vehicles in the northbound portion blocking that. I think, yes, there will be some sort of indigestion for a period of time until it becomes known, and I think traffic patterns develop themselves and improve themselves in that. I do a lot of Sonic burgers up and down California, and those type of facilities, the first 3 weeks, it's ridiculous how many people come out and are in line blocks down the road. In those instances, yes, it makes sense to traffic cone it and get out there with some control points and the thing. Cowboy Jr. is not in that kind of level of, I gotta go get it level, you know. So I suspect it's going to casually become understood. My expectations.
I would just say good luck.
Hey, I'm sure that the owner wants it to be just as bad as Sonic Burgers situations, but it's not a reality.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Is there a Cowboy Jr. elsewhere in California? I'm not familiar with that.
Cowboy Jr., no. This is the small version of what is called Cowboys in Ontario. That property has kind of a tailored market because it has a large empty parking lot which caters to truck drivers. So it's not, like I say, a name brand known profile fast food kind of place. Given time and with exposure, I believe it's going to turn into a nice, great flavor facility to eat at. I've known the owner of the chain for now about 12 years, and he's very cautious, slow to develop, and very caring community type of business. And I believe he had one or has another one in Rancho Cucamonga. Both are excellent quality food and would be a great asset to the city of San Bernardino.
Thank you. As Oliver would say, I think that's a good use for this underutilized property in the community. I travel that street quite frequently, and I've seen that vacant lot for a long time. So I think it could be quite an improvement.
If I may, I will give credit to the developer for his tenacity to continue to find an investor and continue to move forward with what he believes is a good choice and an opportunity to fix a blighted piece of dirt. Thank you.
I have a question, please. Please don't leave. After that description of the delicious food, I could see myself coming down, going north on Waterman Avenue. I turn right into Cowboys, come out through the drive-through, and there's all this traffic, and I can't even get in. I think it is a good use of the property, but I don't want to make it small, the traffic issue, because I think it is a big thing. When you come from Highland up to where the freeway is, there are residents all along on one side of the street, the cemetery on the other, and they have streets that lead into other residents. So the only place for pedestrians to cross is when they come to, 21st Street, where the light signal is. But you come there and the traffic stops. So it kind of slows, especially for come 5 p.m. And I'm thinking about Cowboys for dinner, and I pull in, but there's a lot of traffic going up because Waterman is a main thoroughfare. So that signal on 21st, I know Elizabeth said that they were going to do something about the light signal timing on the 30th Street, but I think the 21st needs to be looked at. Now, I know you talked about keeping the clear thing, but I can see backups in the drive-through if there's a lot of traffic coming in, because those drivers don't give anybody a break. They want to go home. So that is a concern for me. The other thing is, the bodega has been there for a lot of years, my understanding is, and they don't seem to have any problems with, coming out and so forth. But from 21st Street, when the traffic stops, to where the freeway, it's a short distance, and there are a lot of cars, and I've been stuck there too. So I don't know. I think you also should look at the signal on 21st Street.
One point, the 21st signal will create gaps, breaks. When it turns red on northbound Waterman, then there will be a break when you get up to 20, to Town and Country and to 28th, 29th. So there will be breaks caused by that coming northbound.
I just want to be certain that there's an understanding. We are talking about 21st Street, which is 8 blocks prior to the south. And yes, exactly what Bill says is that signal creates gaps in traffic. Once the other components of controlled signalization at the other points are instigated, I believe what we're talking about is that it will cause an improved environment for all of it. And yes, it's going to take some learning. It'll take some time for everybody to understand how long the fries stay hot and how long it's going to take to get that right turn.
Anything else? I guess that's about it. Thank you very much. We have 2 speakers who want to speak on this. Sandy Parada.
Hi. My name is Sandy Parada, and I live at 333 East 29th Street, and I'm actually the second house to that vacant lot. And the concern that I have is the restaurant with the drive-through, because it would create a lot of traffic, and traffic is a big problem living there. We deal with a lot. We deal with a lot of trash. We deal with a lot of worrying about the kids crossing the street. Even though they use the crosswalk at 28th, they use the crosswalk right at the freeway, and they cross when they're supposed to. They have issues with being hit by cars. And even though you're talking about putting Keep Clear on the street, they've had Keep Clear on that street. Nobody cares. The cops don't even care. They don't have to keep it clear if they don't want to. So they block it. I turn left every night when I come home from work. They don't care. So that's a big problem. Cars being parked on the street at all given hours of the day. The neighbor that lives next door to that block wall that you're talking about wanting to put your drive-through at works early in the morning. My husband goes into work at 1:30 in the morning, so we don't want it. So people work at different hours of the day. You know, we deal with 4th of July being dealt there, generators going. We deal with the transients. We deal with panhandling. We deal with La Bodega, and we've gotten pretty good with them. They are used to us. We go to them when we have concerns. They do the best that they can to listen to us. If we have a problem, we go to them, we tell them. If we're not happy, we tell them. The old owner's gone. We have new tenants in there now, and they're doing very well in cleaning it up. We demand a lot. Well, I demand a lot. It's my neighborhood. I look out for my neighbors, and I look out for the kids. It's our city. We pay to live here. We pay the taxes. And I feel that, unfortunately, that type of a restaurant with a drive-through, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. There's too many cars. There's too much traffic. And it's asinine to put something like that there. I'm sorry, but it is. The 7-Eleven generates enough traffic directly across the street. Then we have La Bodega. La Bodega doesn't even stay open until 2 a.m. I think they close roughly about 1. And I believe they open, I think, even at 9 a.m. And even in the morning when I leave at 7, the amount of traffic, even getting off the Waterman Freeway, I get off at 4:30, the amount of cars that are there. Then if it's snowing in the mountains, forget it, the amount of traffic. You're sitting there waiting almost 15, 20 minutes at the light. So, you know, I really hope you guys consider, yes, this is my second time here petitioning something like this, because I was with you, I think, when you were here back in 2008. And, you know, I'm speaking for my neighbor who's new. He can't be here because he is sleeping, because he has to get up, you know, at 1 a.m. to go to work. So this is something that I'm passionate about my house. I'm passionate about my neighborhood. We would like to see something there. It was a Chevron before when I bought my house back in '97. And, you know, we had no problem when it was a Chevron. Everything worked very smoothly. But since then, there's at least 3 accidents a month right there when people are trying to turn. All the time. You know, we've had kids hit, and it's just traffic right now. There's a lot more traffic. People use 29th instead of waiting to go on Waterman. They speed down the street all the time. All the time. And Country Club, it's a lot more narrow than 29th. So to even try to use that, I think it would just create more, you know, trouble than good. So thank you for your time.
There may be questions. Any
Okay.
questions? I have one.
Sure.
Which way do you come in when you come home from work? Do you turn left onto 29th?
Yes, sir, I do.
You do.
I
How do you
exit
find
right
that?
off of the freeway, and
How do
then
you
I
find-
turn left.
How do you find turning left there? Do you have to wait sometimes?
Sometimes I do, and
Uh-huh.
sometimes I don't. It just depends.
What times of the day would you say the traffic is the worst over there?
It's always at its worst at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and then 5 o'clock in the evening. Between 5 and 6, it's pretty much at its heaviest. And then sometimes on the weekends, it's pretty heavy. And then, of course, if there's snow in the mountains, it's heavy all the time. And then on the weekends, it can be pretty heavy as well. It just depends.
Okay, thank you.
You're very
Anything
welcome.
else? Apparently that answers our questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Danny Quezada.
My name is Julie Quesada, my husband Daniel Quesada. Yes, we were here last time this was brought up to our attention. Lived there 39 years, seen it go up and down. spot for the signal lights on 28th Street because no one seemed to care about the children crossing without a crossing guard. Thanks to Mr. Penman, helped me on that. I brought it to his attention, and he did look at that. Had several accidents there, and just got tired of it until one day a little boy just jumped out of the car getting scared after they got hit so bad that he almost ran 2 watermen, and I ran after him and grabbed them. Thankful that the father was thankful to me for doing that. But anyways, yes, lived there 39 years. La Bodega has gone through so many owners or managers. I've seen it all, okay? Trash, loud music. Now you have everybody standing there drug dealing. And it's something that I have opened up eyes to, and nobody has done anything. We have to deal with the new owner. We have to start all over again. And then we have transients. I mean, even 1 or 2 sleeping on my lawn when I get up in the morning. So you figure you have a hamburger stand there with benches, you'll find a lot of them sleeping on your bench. And nobody goes out and tells them to leave. No one. When we ask, okay, the owners to please take care of their property, it's like, get off my property. Don't tell me what to do. Okay, if they want to be a part of us, then they got to take care of our neighborhood as we do our own. Because see, they close up at night and they leave and they go to their home. We don't. We stay there. And my children, I do have grandchildren living with me. And I have the fear of them going to school, to college at night, coming in. Because you do not know who's going to approach you. I mean, we just had a murder on Wildwood. And, you know, I mean, you just can't even walk into your house safely. And we all know that. So that's my biggest concern. The last time they proposed this, they were telling us where we could park on our curb. At that time, my husband had a service truck. Okay? We parked it in the side of our street on 29th. We weren't going to be able to do that no more. Only for the safe reason it was right under the street light. Okay? The other thing was, you know, I do agree we should have something there. I mean, we missed the service station being gone, but we never had trouble with the service station. But the transits have gotten so bad that they used to be behind La Bodega, and they had to get rid of that wall because we had tons of them. Now we have them on the freeway. They break down the fence. We're talking about Caltrans doing something here. Well, I've called Caltrans 4 or 5 times. The sprinkler heads are gone. Water's flowing, flooding down the street. Do you think they've taken care of it? And I've called them since last week. The street is flooded. So let's see what Caltrans will do. When we proposed to get a light on 29th Street, they denied us. It was too close to the freeway entrance and off-ramp. Okay. I fought for the one for 28th, like I said. Kids were crossing, daring to cross. And I would actually, when I'd go get my kids, I would cross the street with them with my car, and I'd tell them go when it was clear, to protect them with a car better than their little bodies to get hurt or hit. They didn't bother until I screamed, because when those 2 little kids got killed there, and they said they were already working on it, they weren't. So I've been there long enough. All those kids that go to Wilson School, which all my kids and my grandkids do, those are my kids. They're my community kids. And whether they're mine or not, it's my duty to take care of them and protect them. So think about that. Another business is only going to have a lot of transit staying there, homeless, and you cannot get rid of them. Because honestly, we've tried.
Say so. In regards to the southbound traffic and the entering into Country Club, was it? Or there isn't a turning lane there, so you're going to stop right in the middle of traffic and wait for northbound traffic to pass in order for you to make the turn to get onto this business property. It's already congested all the way from the signal light of 28th all the way up, both directions. So stopping traffic to make a left-hand turn to go get a burger or whatever it is going to be an issue already if there isn't a turnout for that. The other thing, like my wife said, was the transients. If we can go back up to the picture that showed the park-like setting on the property, it's an area for them to congregate, kick back, and they're our problem again. I understand it's a problem in San Bernardino, period, but at that intersection, in that area, they just congregate. We get guys, different faces all the time. And it's an issue. So we need to really consider that.
Hold on a minute. There may be other questions. I want to ask a question of staff. I believe there's a two-way left turn lane all the way past Country Club. Is that correct?
I'm not exactly sure if there is. Let me verify with the applicant. Yes, there is, sir.
I'm just, if there are any plans to, say, put in some left turn arrows or something like that at Country Club?
Let me get the applicant to come up and.
First off, I want to thank the community members coming up and sharing with us their thoughts and concerns. We too want to have a safe environment. No, we don't want vagrants sleeping in the plants and sitting on the benches. We will be closed earlier than the Mexican restaurant across, and probably not opening at 6 a.m. The applicant, the restaurateur said, you know, let's ask for this and see what our business profile will be. Traffic issues.
To stripe in a left, to put in a left turn pocket with a striped arrow at Country Club is entirely possible, it could be done. The city, we didn't propose it because there is a two-way left turn lane there, like someone said, but it could be striped or changed into a left turn pocket pretty easily. At least that's my opinion without going further into an analysis, but I think it could be done.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you. Yes,
through the chair, I have a question of the traffic engineer. What is the process that you go through to work with Caltrans to get those lights adjusted to make the traffic flow better than it does?
The Caltrans, one of their objectives is to keep traffic from backing up on the freeway. For instance, the eastbound ramp, the off ramp.
Yeah.
They want to have enough signal time, so the traffic doesn't back up on the freeway. That's, I'll say, their number one priority. Other than that, they're just all for coordinating and getting it to work the best possible. So it'd be kind of a joint venture between the city and Caltrans. And I don't think we're talking about a lot of money. I think we're just talking about coordination and getting everybody to agree, let's do that, do a certain thing. That's the answer. There's a lot of official, applications and stuff that happen, but Caltrans in San Bernardino is pretty good to work with. Some of the other ones aren't so easy. So they're pretty good.
If I may expand on that, we are right at the border of Caltrans influence. So we aren't actually within the realm of Caltrans purview. Traffic City of San Bernardino has said, to be good neighbors with Caltrans, we request that we have good communication. And we've said, absolutely, we agree. So the correspondence is actually proactive on our side as well as the city side to work with Caltrans. They reviewed our report, and I honestly have to say I was somewhat flabbergasted by their response. They came back with 4 comments that were representative of a lack of understanding of the actual reading of the report. So we gave them redirection in the response to try to assess to try to give them a better understanding of what they were reading. Somebody said to say Caltrans' focus is more the freeway, not the off-site stuff. So again, our position is the same as the city's. We want to make it work. We want to make certain that people can get in and get out of the property. That's a betterment for our businesses, as would be for the community.
Thank you. I believe that's all we have. Mr. Penman.
James Penman, Milligan Desert, Levine and Knox, 221 East Marshall Boulevard, San Bernardino. Our firm represents Colton Dynasty. I have a great deal of empathy for that particular neighborhood. I spent a lot of time when I was city attorney there working with them on some of the problems. And that neighborhood is really in a most unfortunate situation. When those houses were built, the 210 was not there. What formerly was the Crosstown was not there. It was a quiet residential neighborhood. My mother-in-law's house is 2 blocks east, 29th, and I go there all the time, and then the name will come to me in a minute. But just 2 blocks east of there. I live 2 blocks north and 1 block west of there, so I'm back and forth between mother-in-laws all the time, and I go through that area. And those folks have had a really rough time. When the freeway went in, the La Bodega, the homeless, the drug dealing that went on at La Bodega. Julie and Danny Casada worked with them, with the neighborhood association there, tried very hard to get that area taken care of. There was, as you know, a sit-down restaurant there for a number of years. My recollection was there was first just a restaurant. They weren't able to maintain business because they didn't have enough parking. Then there was a Mexican restaurant there. Alfredo was there for a while, Alfredo's too. In fact, when I was in private practice, first time, I represented Victor Mazal, Alan Mazal's father, who the owner of Alfredo's. They also had to close it down because of the parking problems, as did the Mexican restaurant. There just isn't enough parking there available there for a restaurant to have the volume of customers that they need to have. I don't think anything is going to resolve the problems of that neighborhood. I think anything that you put on that site is going to create additional traffic, no matter what it is. The key, I think, is to put the least objectionable facility there. A standalone gas station might be great, but we don't really have standalone gas stations in the city anymore. They come with Kmart's or 7-Elevens or what have you. They sell liquor. We have ongoing problems with gang activity, with drugs at those locations. La Bodega has done a really good job. And I would not want to see a gas station, combination gas station convenience store, which is the only type of gas station that would come there, coming in, being a nationwide corporation and running La Bodega out of business. Then you've got an empty building sitting there across the street, and you've got another convenience store with all of those problems. I don't think that's what that neighborhood particularly needs. The deterioration of the city has contributed to the problems of that neighborhood, and certainly the police department's response that for years was they used to get tired of us complaining, but we kept complaining. But I know it's gotten worse because the department is down by many dozens of officers, and the crime has continued to spiral. There's one advantage here, and I know Julie and Danny have my number, and my home number is listed in the phone book as it was when I was city attorney. And Julie and Danny have my cell number, and I'm certainly willing to give it to Mrs. Pereda and anyone else who would like to have it. I have, fortunately, a good ongoing personal relationship with the present owners of Colton Dynasty who own that property. And I know that at all of their businesses, they have heavy maintenance, a minimum of 4 times a week. And I would certainly make myself available to the residents of that neighborhood if they have problems to call me directly, and I will call the owner of Colton Dynasty. And I'm pretty sure, given the relationship we have, that we can address whatever problems might happen. What I don't want to see happen is I don't want to see Colton Dynasty sell this property to another owner who will bring in a gas station convenience store, or who will push the city because it's a prime location and everybody's going to go, oh, come on. No, don't, oh, come on. Our office has already declined to represent a potential client who came to us and wanted to put a marijuana farm there. We certainly don't want to see a marijuana farm there. Now, the proposed ordinance for marijuana would not allow a marijuana farm there because it's within 600 feet of a residence. But I can tell you that that doesn't mean a whole lot because ordinances can change. And given the litigation that's already occurred around Measure O, that is a prime location for a marijuana store and cultivation point. And I can see a lawsuit coming down by somebody. I know there were people who wanted to hire us to do that, and we said no. There's virtually nothing that's going to happen at that corner, as I said before, that won't have some impact on traffic. The gas station is also going to have a lot of impact on traffic. I think the point is this particular owner has agreed to all the conditions that the city has asked to put on that property in this development. And this particular owner has made a commitment to keep that property clean and to address the vagrants. And I think there's an added advantage there because while I'm not in office anymore, I'm still very sympathetic to the people there, and I have friends in that neighborhood. And I certainly invite them to call me if they have problems. And I think at the outset they will, but I think the owner will address those once those become known. And we would like to have that opportunity. The real tragedy here is this is really a Caltrans created problem. The city can't really handle this problem. Caltrans has jurisdiction from the middle of 29th Street north, and it's considered a public highway all the way up even at 40th and Waterman. Caltrans constantly weighs in on issues. Some people have been referring to the traffic signal at 21st and Waterman. I believe what they meant was the traffic signal at 28th and Waterman. And that was put in, my recollection, by the city, but I could be wrong. And it was in response to trying to deal with the problems that happened when 30th Street ended up just south of it with a freeway there. There's no really good solution. Caltrans has been doing a study there, and they need to do some major they need to make some major changes that only Caltrans can make to solve the bottleneck that occurs there. I can see things happening such as people. I don't think there'll be a lot of off freeway traffic at this particular drive-through. It's not a Sonic Burger. It's not an In-N-Out, which do have the really long lines. I think the local people who use it are going to quickly find out when they exit onto 29th, they're going to need to turn right to go to Valencia rather than turn left and go onto Waterman. That's not going to make the folks on 29th happy, and I don't blame them. But I think that's probably what default is going to happen. The bottom line is the law requires that a person be allowed to have some commercially viable use of their property. They can't be forced to keep their property empty. And I don't think that there's anything that you are going to be able to put on that location where a business person is going to want to invest in that location that is not going to create more traffic. And so I think what we have to do is try to get the best fit that's possible right now. And from my years of experience, I think this is going to be the better fit. And I think you have an owner of the property, the people who run the stores there and the drive-through restaurant may not be locals, but the ties to this community are long and strong by the present property owner there. And it's someone that I've been able to work with in the past, and I think we'll be able to work with the neighbors in the future. And I wish it could be something else, but I don't want to see a big battle and see it turn into a marijuana farm or a marijuana retail. I don't want to see a massage parlor there. I know the current, we had that, some people wanted that years ago, wanted to put a massage parlor there. There's all kinds of problems with those. Those are not the kind of places we need, and we're not going to get another standalone gas station. So those are my suggestions. If any of the residents who are here would like to check with me after the meeting, I'll be glad to give them my personal cell phone number and make myself available. If there's any questions, I'll answer them. If not, I'll shut up and sit down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. We have Margaret Cisneros.
I'm sorry that I didn't know about this sooner, since the public as far as the residents close to the place were not notified until the beginning of this month. I own the property on 29th and Waterman. South, next adjacent to that property, I own 2884 Waterman, 2874 Waterman, and 2864 Waterman. So I am very concerned about what goes across the street from me and what will face me. I'm mostly concerned about the children's safety at the school that is on Bell Street that have to cross at the signal light on 28th. There is no signal light on 29th, and it's closer to the off and on ramps of the freeway. I don't know why it was even considered to put the drive-through, the hamburger place or whatever, unless it was for the commercial building that they say will offer services to the area, because this area needs services. It has a lot of needs. It's surrounded by families. And they are families that are good families. The school is very close and convenient. Please don't spoil it. There have been many, many applications for this type of a business. It has always been denied because of the safety reasons, the traffic, the noise, the littering, the loitering, the lighting, the speed variations for that type of a business that go in and out, all the pollution, the hours of operation. The residents have needs, and they need services. They don't need more problems and the danger. Please consider the residents. They were there first. Thank you.
Any questions for the speaker?
Any questions?
Apparently not. Thank you very much.
I also submitted a written application. I tried not to.
This one?
No.
Oh, this one. Oh, this is your letter?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we've gone over that, and we understand your concerns, and we appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a question, actually.
You have a question? Yes.
Yes, I have a question. I just read your letter a few minutes ago. I saw that the address listed here was on Sterling Avenue.
Yes, that is my address, but I own all those 4 properties.
The ones on Waterman, adjacent to the.
Yes, and 29th also.
Okay. The properties that you own, are they residential or commercial?
All it's zoned there since the term of Ballard. People thought it was going to go at that time before the freeway and everything like that, but it didn't. So now it's a different concern. So if they want to develop where this is being proposed, they need to also develop across the street. Oh, because all the negatives, the lighting, everything is going to affect that area. So if they don't want to develop that into anything that isn't going to benefit the neighborhood, no one's going to vote for it or want it to be, because it will ruin the neighborhood. The school is right there. So please consider that, please.
Thank you. I have another question for the traffic engineer, if he wouldn't mind coming forward. Are you satisfied with the response that you got from Caltrans?
I'll say yes, and that's not even a hesitant yes. Caltrans worked well with it. They approved. They went along with what the city wants and what we proposed. And there's some negotiations have already occurred a little bit. So I'm satisfied. I think the city can work with Caltrans and come up with about the best solution possible. I think that's happening.
Do you know the director, John Bulinski?
I don't personally know.
If at any time you have any reservations about what they're doing, I would suggest that you contact Mr. John Bulinski personally, and he will see that things are done the way you want them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I have a question of you also.
Yes, sir.
The lady that was just speaking talked about the school. I know there's a school over on Bell, I believe it is. There's crossing guards there that are there during times people are going to school? Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know if that was entered into your survey or report that you did.
Well, down at 28th, where there is a signal, I assume most of the kids, or a lot of kids, cross down there. Crossing at 29th is, it's got some problems, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I travel on Del Rosa, and there's a crossing guard there. I don't know how the school or who provides the crossing guards, or how that system works. But
well, I can't tell you about definitely how San Bernardino works, but generally it's the city that provides crossing guards, and I believe the city pays for them. The school district generally doesn't pay for them, as the city typically gets input from the principal or the person most knowledgeable at the school. What do you think? What do we need? They typically do a study, figure out how many kids are crossing which street. But normally the city is the one that eventually puts in crossing guards. And the way it actually works, there's an outside firm that kind of specializes in crossing guards. In other words, they provide the crossing guards in numerous cities throughout Southern California, and most cities hire a company like that and just contract with this many crossing guards in these locations on these hours. It's usually the way it works.
thank you. Okay, hearing that, I believe that actually the residents in that area should be petitioning the school or whoever they need to petition to get some assistance there with some crossing guard help for the times that the kids come and go to school. That's my opinion.
That should be looked into, yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for the traffic engineer as well. Thank you for being here, for one. Also, have you had the opportunity to listen to some of the concerns that the residents in attendance tonight have been telling us, and have you had the opportunity to review the letter that Ms. Cisneros submitted to us as well?
I've heard the public testimony tonight. I have not seen Mrs. Cisneros' letter. I have not seen that.
Okay. And so far, out of the concerns that you've heard tonight through the public testimony and the brief synopsis that you've been given from Mrs. Cisneros' letter, do you believe that you guys have been operating in good faith as far as to address these concerns? Have there been any concerns that have come up tonight that have been overlooked or outside of the purview or the framework that you guys have been operating or proposing to operate for the traffic study?
I would say nothing new has come up that we didn't know about one way or another. More details tonight, but so I wouldn't say there's surprises, but we were familiar with the problems, and I think the former city attorney, there he is, I think said it pretty well. It's a difficult site. It's going to be hard to find a better usage for the site. No gas station apparently is going to work there, and most other land uses would probably generate more traffic and more problems. And the vacant lot today it's got aesthetics problems if nothing else. So I'd agree with that.
So the minor details that were discussed today, the proposed plan that we have before us would address those concerns that the public is stating.
Well, if you add anything, you're going to add a little bit. You're going to add traffic. So any land use is going to add traffic. If the question is, and also the landowner has the right to develop his land. So if you make that assumption, those two assumptions, the question then becomes which has the least probable traffic impact of various possible alternatives. And I believe this one's probably about as good as it will be. That's my opinion.
Thank you for the clarification.
Mr. Penman.
Regarding the school board, the traffic guard situation, when I was in office, when my wife was on the school board, the city paid half and the school district paid half. I don't know what's happened since we both have left office, but I would encourage the best place to start for the residents getting a crossing guard is with the school board, and I'd be glad to put them in touch with Dr. Barbara Flores, who's on the school board and is very responsive to residents' concerns about that. I think all the responsible parents in that area, and in my experience, that's a very responsible community with very good people. And all the responsible parents have their children who are going to school cross at 28th and Waterman. It would be very foolish to have children try to cross at 29th and Waterman. It'd be very dangerous. But I'll be glad, again, after the meeting, to get with them and put them in touch with Dr. Flores about the crossing guards. And I do think that when I was first contacted and knowing the problems there, I was impressed with the extent that the owners had already gone to anticipate the concerns of the residents. And we amplified that in a meeting with the city manager about the potential problems, and the city planning staff was very much aware of that and very much insisted on some mitigating measures to address the concerns of the residents. The bottom line is, though, as with so much population growth and development, and I didn't mean to imply that it's Caltrans' fault. Caltrans has to do what they have to do, but that is what's created that problem there, is that additional traffic from the freeway, the on and off ramps. And Caltrans is the one that has to address it. The city doesn't have the wherewithal to do it. But I think Caltrans is doing a study now to try to alleviate some of that problem. But from my many years in office and seeing the different proposals to put different businesses there, I do not believe you're going to get one that's going to generate less traffic than this particular project. I think the others that are interested in going there are going to generate more, and I think you're going to end up with the potential of this property owner selling the property to someone who's not going to have nearly the concern for the local community as this one will have. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, again, my background, of course, John DeFrenza. I'm an architect. I've also done land planning. I've got cross training. I've also run 2 restaurants. The interesting thing that's coming about here is we have pedestrians and we have vehicles and we have uses. In my perception, and speaking with traffic engineering with Bill Koonsman, we both believe that we could present something to the traffic division of the city of San Bernardino that would restrict, kind of in the lines of what you were talking about, signage, that would restrict pedestrian crossing at 29th and Waterman at all four corners, encouraging and directing crossing at the street signals. Now, the first thought that pops in my mind is to put metal bars and rods that cars hit and look like crap in 3 months. So bollards, some manner of protection at the corners that are concrete or some in that direction, I think would be a great condition to apply to the project, that we would work with Traffic Engineering Division to find a mitigation to that traffic crossing, pedestrian crossing option. It just seems natural that that type of solution could be done, and it's a low-cost solution, but it is on city property, so we have to work with the Traffic Engineering Division to resolve the design and implementation. Our offer.
Thank you. Any other questions? I believe that's the extent of the public comments, unless Mrs. Cisneros would like to speak again.
Please. I wanted to mention that within the last 2 years on 29th and at 2884 North Waterman, I have had 7 traffic accidents that have damaged my properties. Just those two traffics. And 7 accidents that have damaged my properties. Some the police have responded and some haven't, because we do have poor response at that intersection. Okay? So it is not a safe corner.
We agree. Thank you. Anyone else? Anything? I hear a motion about to be made.
I would like to make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2018-009, adopting the categorical exemption and approving conditional use permit 17-22 based on the finding and facts and subject to recommended conditions of the approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Excuse me,
those in-
Commissioner Chair. The applicant agreed to work with, I want to capture the condition that the applicant read at the end, to work with the city to install some sort of signage and potential barriers to prevent pedestrians from crossing Waterman at 29th. There were also 2 other comments that were raised about no blocking of the intersection, and there were a phased implementation, I guess is the best way to put it. The first was to just put a no blocking of an intersection on the pavement, and if that didn't work, to go to the crosshatch. It probably makes sense, as long as they're doing the improvements, to do the crosshatch at the very beginning. And then there was also some brief discussion about a left turn pocket from Waterman onto Country Club Lane. And I'm wondering if the applicant would be amenable to adding those 3 conditions, the one that he offered and then the 2 others. So I think it would be helpful to get an affirmative response from the applicant before those are actually added.
First, again, I'd like to really thank the staff, traffic planning, for everything that we've done to this point. These ideas are derivative from the community and what we've heard. And yes, we wholeheartedly support the comments and the integration of these ideas into the conditions.
Thank you.
Commissioner, would the motion then be to adopt the resolution with the amended conditions?
Yes, yes, I would.
Second.
And the second approves that, so.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, I had something to say in regards to blocking pedestrians walking at the freeway at the 29th and, I guess, the freeway. You can't block the pedestrians from walking there because otherwise the kids aren't able to cross over to walk up to go to the middle school. And you can't block it. So to put the bars there, that doesn't make any sense.
I think we'll work with the traffic engineer because there is a controlled intersection.
Yeah, I mean, it is controlled because you push the button to walk all the way around. So that's why I was like, to put the bars there, it kind of doesn't make any sense to block it because you can only walk when you're able to walk, but to put the bars to stop you from crossing, excuse me, makes no sense because the kids have to be able to cross to go to the middle school and to be able to go up to Parkside for the parents and the kids that go up there.
Elizabeth, can you briefly go back to that aerial? I know we don't have the full intersection there, unfortunately. Right. Yeah. The prohibition would be for pedestrians crossing east-west across Waterman, not going north-south. So the idea is to get pedestrians to cross at a controlled intersection so they could go south on Waterman to, I guess it's 28th Street, or could go north up to the freeway off-ramp and then cross at that controlled intersection.
Well, right now,
Yeah.
the way we all cross is either across Waterman at 28th or across Waterman at, we call it the freeway on an off-ramp.
Right.
That's the
And
way
that's-
we all cross right now.
That's not going to be impacted by this. That's
Oh,
actually,
okay.
yeah.
That was the way I understood it when he's
No,
like, we'll put the
no.
bars up. I'm like, no, we can't. We've got to be
No.
able to, because
No,
we
it
all
would be
use the
preventing
crosswalks.
preventing people from crossing east-west
Okay.
yeah, at Country Club or at 29th, which are both on.
Okay, yeah, because otherwise that's jaywalking. We don't do that.
Right.
Okay.
Well, some people.
Well, no, I know, but our children don't do that because they know it's not safe. Okay.
The public hearing is still open, and I would like to hear all comments before we close it. So, Mr. Didn't get your name.
DeFrenza, I'm sorry, if a motion was in position, is public hearing still open?
It is still open because I didn't close it.
Okay, I have no comment.
I'm back. Could we have a 6-month CUP?
Mr. Director?
The commission can certainly add that as a condition, yes. That typically is applied to ABC permits to assure that they are complying with the conditions. But I think if it's a condition compliance check, we can certainly add that as a condition, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your-
Subject to the maker of the motion and the second agreeing.
Thank you.
One more. On that 6-month condition, what is it that we are conditioning? What is the cause or the relevance?
The commission has added for ABC permits the ability to have staff monitor compliance with the CUP. It's essentially reaffirming a right that the city already has under the development code. Conditional use permits can always be monitored. This just puts a very specific time limit on it.
Mrs. Quizana.
Hi. Question. If things get bad there, I have a very deep concern, you know that. If things get bad there like we do at La Bodega, have problems there, before with the last owner and this owner, will we be guaranteed security? I would request a security guard. Valencia does, liquor store. The other thing is, if that doesn't go off as a good business, I sure hate to have another empty building there. That's my deep concern. And I want you all to think about, because I will fight. I would like a clause in that to promise that we have something. I mean, Mr. Penn will be working with them, but if there's problems, yes, I will call him, and he knows that, for us to see how we would work it out. I just had it with La Bodega, the last owner. This owner, pretty good, as Parada says, but it's like he shuts his eyes to other things. He doesn't want to see it, okay? Pretty sad when you have to go out and see people in front of your house mistaking your daughter's car, the wrong car, to go up and say, how much do you want? See what I'm saying? I just want safety, and that's my biggest thing.
Are you suggesting that the developer provide a security guard?
For their business, yes.
Does anybody have any comments on that? Apparently not. Thank you. Yes?
I'm not at liberty to speak for the business owner that runs the facility, but I would assume that a conditional use permit 6-month review would already establish a management technique for the city to be able to address lack of performance by the business. If a security guard is part of the conditions up front, we're already policing something that may not necessarily need policing. So I'm unclear, again, whether the performance dictates the need up front. Yes, of course, if the performance shows that it's not doing its part, the conditional use permit already has teeth enough to address that type of condition. My thought.
Thank you.
My concern is the safety and the traffic. And I thought it would automatically be included, security would be included if this was going to go through, because they already have to have the security at the two businesses that are established there, the bodega and the service station. And they had security years ago at the Chevron. I've had those properties since the 50s. And it's always been a safe place before all of this changed with the freeway and the signal lights and the lack of signal lights and the lack of security. And the protection of that school and those children, teachers, and workers at the school is important. I don't know why they think that a business can just go in and mess up a neighborhood. It's on two sides of the street. North and south, east and west. Children are our future. Please consider what we put in. You don't want to pick up the pieces afterwards. Let's please think about the children, not about a business. There's enough all over the city that are going broke. And they're in better places than that location for that type of business. Have you ever considered maybe commercial at the bottom like they did by Meadowbrook Park? Residential upstairs? It would be limited, but it would be servicing the neighborhood. I have very, very serious doubts about this type of a business because it has always been denied since 1950. Okay?
Thank you. Mr. Penman.
all of us have had to deal with the difficult problems of increased population. In my neighborhood, the apartment complex at 30th and Leroy was a great place to live and never a problem for the surrounding residents. That's no longer the case. We have people from the apartments going up and down our street now that would not have been accepted in those apartments years ago. And they do things, they commit crimes that, that the police really can't handle. As far as security guards go, some of the fast food restaurants in San Bernardino have found the need for it. McDonald's has put security guards in some of their places. Others have not. It's not something you can predict. That there's no doubt security guards are always better, but it's a very cost prohibitive to put them in. But I think that since the developers agreed to add the 6-month review, at that time you could look at it, as my colleague suggested a moment ago, and see if the businesses are generating the type of issues that call for a security guard, and that would be the appropriate time to address that rather than beforehand and risk scaring off a business. The lady's comments are correct. Businesses throughout the city have closed. The city's in a depressed situation, and ever since the closure of Norton Air Force Base. But it is one thing I do want to correct, though, is that approvals for projects at that location have always been turned down. That is not the case. This particular project was approved unanimously by the city council back before the recession in 2008. When the recession hit, our client lost the businesses that were going to go into that location, but that was approved, and it was approved unanimously by the city council on appeal from a earlier planning commission decision, and a close one as I recall, but I might be wrong about that. It's been a lot of years. But what's before you now is what was already approved by the city about a decade ago. So it's not like this is really breaking entirely new ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anything from the commission?
I have a question. In regards to the 6-month conditional use permit that's being proposed, I know typically we use those when issuing ABC licenses as a mechanism to, if the sale of alcohol in a certain area is negatively impacting that proximity. To my understanding now, we're proposing a 6-month conditional use rolling evaluation per se because of traffic concerns. I wanted to know, are we using this 6-month review or mechanism in the proper capacity in order to address the concerns that the public is proposing as far as with the traffic and vehicle congestion?
As I stated, you are correct, Commissioner Jones. These are typically only applied to ABC permits. The city has the ability through the development code to review conditions of approval, to monitor conditions of approval, and to bring an item back to the Planning Commission, at which point, if findings can be made, the Commission can modify, update the conditional use permit. So the 6-month condition is really codifying the authority that we already have. It's just putting a initial time frame on that.
Thank you.
Chair, Deputy City Attorney Stephen Graham, I thought it would be helpful just to read the 6-month reinspection condition into the record, if that's okay.
Good.
Every 6 months over the 2 years from the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, the Planning Division shall conduct an inspection of the business operations and property to ensure compliance with the conditions of approval to the satisfaction of the Community Development Director. In the event that an unresolved issue continues to exist, the applicant shall submit an application along with the appropriate fee for reconsideration by the Planning Commission. That's the standard language we use on the 6-month recheck of the business operations, just to ensure that they're complying with the conditions of approval.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing and call for the question. We have a motion before us and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
With the 4 added conditions.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excuse me, don't I have to make that motion for the 4 added?
That is typically the process, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I wouldn't add all those to my motion. The only thing I would add to my motion is the original offer to put the crossing section into the intersection to have the traffic back up. I don't believe it's I believe it's putting too much of a burden on the business to open a business and then have it reviewed every 6 months to retain its occupancy permit. So I believe that if the business is going to be operated by a responsible operator and the city is doing their job by looking at the traffic, that they can take care of some of the other issues. But I think originally when it was originally proposed about blocking the traffic for the turn, I think that's what the only thing I would want to include into my motion.
We have already passed the motion. What
Sure.
should we do about that?
So this is partially my fault for not helping the commission create a clear record of exactly what transpired. The motion that you were voting on was Commissioner Quill's motion, which had the 3 traffic mitigation additional conditions, which was the sidewalk gate with the sign to prevent crossing at 29th and Country Club, crossing of Waterman, the cross hatching on 29th with the keep clear, and the left-hand turn lane or turn arrow in the center left-hand turn lane going southbound on Waterman at Country Club. Commissioner Quill had not added the 6-month review that I read into the record. That was purely for your edification if you wanted to add it. Seeing as how you did not add it, the motion that you approved was the traffic mitigation, the 3 traffic mitigation conditions only. You did not add that 6-month review. If any commissioner would like to add that at this point, the proper motion would be a motion for reconsideration. So I would recommend that you ask if any, Chair, I would simply recommend that you ask if there's any such motion, and if there's not, I would recommend that we continue on to item 8.
Do we have such a motion? I hear no motion. So I would say that the motion carries as it stands. And that concludes item number 7. Thank you very much. I would like to call a 5-minute recess before we go into the next item. Order, please. And we're down to item number 8, I believe. Development Code Amendment number 17-07 and Development Permit Type 17-05. Staff report, please.
Yes, item number 8 is Development Code Amendment 17-07 and Development Permit Type P 17-05. So the proposed project includes an adaptive reuse overlay, as this is a new chapter or a subchapter of the Main Street overlay. 2 designated areas were designated for this overlay. So AR1, which is actually the Main Street overlay, and then AR2 is a flag-shaped overlay just north of the first overlay. And there's some minor differences between the 2 overlay areas, and I'll get into that in just a moment. But the idea behind the adaptive reuse overlay is to allow some existing commercial and office buildings to be reused for residential purposes where normally they would not be allowed. So the AR1 overlay is the Main Street overlay. As you can see, it's the overlay section on the bottom of the page. That would allow adaptive reuse of existing commercial or office buildings within what is basically considered our downtown area, the Main Street overlay. In any existing commercial or office buildings, as long as they meet the requirements that have been laid out in the adaptive overlay chapter. The AR2 overlay is sort of a flag shape. You can see starting from D Street, just north of the Main Street overlay, and then expanding outwards to include Waterman Avenue between Baseline and Highland. And in that zone, the adaptive reuse would only be allowed in the commercial office zones. And that's primarily because we have some commercial corridor along Highland and Baseline that we don't want to see used for residential purposes. But much of the CO zone, we've had people asking for years if they could reuse those properties for residential purposes, primarily because they're already located within residential areas. Most of the buildings there are kind of characteristic of residential properties, and so the integration would be fairly smooth. And so we wanted to include that, but just in the CO zone, just existing commercial office buildings. And the development permit that we have coupled with the code amendment will allow the reuse of an existing office building that's been vacant since about 2013. It will be modified for 9 residential units, and the outside will be modernized with some residential features, some more modern stonework on the outside, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But I wanted to show the location is at the corner of 16th Street and North Arrowhead Avenue. And as you can see, it's surrounded by multifamily residential and a lot of single-family residential in the area. Okay. So the site plan, it's a bit hard at this scale to see, but we will have 9 units there. They all have their own laundry hookup facilities inside. They have more than 1 parking space per unit, and you can see that there's some modern details, some window treatments that have been added, some more modern stonework, and a pitched roof has been added to this building, which currently looks like this. We're getting rid of the kind of outdated pink arches along the bottom of that top floor, adding the pitched roof, getting rid of the lava stone that's a little bit dated. So that's the presentation. The recommendation tonight is that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2018-011, forwarding a recommendation to the Mayor and City Council to adopt the categorical exemptions pursuant to Section 15061B3 for review for exemption and 15301 for existing facilities, and approve Development Code Amendment 17-07 and Development Permit Type P 17-05 based on the findings of fact and subject to the conditions of approval. And I can take any questions that you have.
Thank you. Could you back up to the last slide you showed?
Yes. This one?
Yes.
It is burned out on that side.
It is burned out.
It is burned out. So
okay, that's what I was wondering.
Again, you know, to not to beat our favorite phrase of the night, but this will make use of an underutilized site, revitalize the site, and it will be consistent with the surrounding neighborhood, which is primarily made up of existing multifamily and single-family residential uses.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have some questions. These apartments, are they 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom? What are they?
There's a mix. I believe there's about 5 single bedroom and 4 2-bedroom apartments.
Okay. And what would the rent be? What would the commercial rate be? Do you know?
I can have the
What is it that
developer
the
come up.
owner? Yeah.
Hi, Jeff Howie, partner. This is, so
Amanda Busby, project architect.
your question was regarding rents.
Yes. I mean, what would commercially you be looking to rent these apartments?
Well, current rent rates are in the neighborhood of $800 to $1,100, depending upon single or double occupancy.
Okay. And this is not an apartment, 9 apartment for a social service type of program?
No, these are not low-income projects of
So
any
these are
sort.
for
These are,
residents who are
market rate.
interested in...
Market rate, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Apparently not. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no more questions,
Are there any additional speakers on this item?
I don't have any speaker slips. Is there anyone who wants to speak? State your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Daniel Nunez Cerezo. I'm representing my community, my neighborhood. It's 1524 North Arrowhead Avenue. So my question is for you. I know you mentioned it's not going to be for low-income families, right? Are we going to have any background checks on these residents? Are you going to run background checks? Because, I mean, we've been having, issues in the community previous. A month ago or 2 months ago, I bought a car. I'm an Uber and Lyft driver. I'm also a student at the University of California, Riverside. On January, on the 1st, I believe, there was a burglary, I want to say, and it happened in my house, where they tried to break into my vehicle, which I drive for Uber and Lyft. That's why, I want to see if you're gonna do any background checks on these people.
Hi. So we would be adopting the city ordinance for rent with regards to making sure that we have good quality renters. Our project, we recently remodeled a project over on 9th and G, and with what we put into the properties in terms of the quality, in terms of our investment, we have a long-term interest. And so with that in mind, quality renters is certainly a big part of our program going forward. So we want the community to be improved. We feel like this has been a problem, and that's what we feel we're addressing.
So would you do the background checks as he's suggesting when you're looking for renters, or is there something, a process that you have?
Yeah, all the like we have a property manager that works with us, and the types of things that are allowed, within the rent restrictions, absolutely. So the last thing we want is to bring problems into our
because that will mean problems for you.
Absolutely.
Do you have other developments within the city of San Bernardino similar to this or elsewhere?
Well, we, like I said, we recently did the 9 units over on 9th and G, and then we also have the project, which is adjacent across the street, that we are in the same process of consideration of residential out of an office building. So that would be the extent that we have at this point. We have an extensive background in, residential development and remodeling and that type of projects.
Will there be an on-site manager?
In this case, there is likely to be, because of the number of units, there is either an on-site manager or somebody that's appointed with an authority, because we can't leave them unattended.
Mm-hmm. Did that answer any of your concerns? Okay. Because right now it's boarded up, and I can imagine it attracts people that you may not want in the community. And that area, although at one point it did have businesses along there,
Yeah, so
no businesses are willing to relocate there, but
Yeah,
it
so-
would add to the residential area.
Correct. So basically, we had opposite to that direction, to the corner of that street, we had a dispensary for marijuana, which we didn't, want it for that because there's students walking through that side of that street,
Yeah, from San Bernardino High School.
San
and so
Bernardino High
forth.
School and Airview Middle School.
Mhm.
So that's why we want to avoid all that. So my concern was like, what type of business was going to come in, but since you're going to bring more residents, that'll be great for our community.
Okay.
And also, I want to, point to, we have issues also in that intersection because there's been a lot of accidents in that intersection, which, is not going to interview your thing. But I want to recommend, as you guys, you guys have to fix this issue because on that intersection on North Arrowhead Avenue, there's cars speeding up to 50 miles per hour or more, especially in the evenings and in midnight. We have motorcycles, driving at least I will say 75 miles per hour. They're driving so fast. It causes accidents. I don't know if you guys have reports of those accidents, but it causes more than I'll say 20 accidents per year in that intersection. So I want you guys, to review that. Have at least stop signs in that intersection, also in Magnolia and North Arrowhead as well. There's been a lot of accidents because I don't know if you can see, if you can see right there, it's not an actual, straight street. It's I want to say, cross-sided street where you have to make a stop sign, and then if you want to turn to the next street on the 16th Street, you have to make another stop and wait for oncoming traffic to come on. So, I mean, I'm recommending at least a stop sign in there or a cross light, something like that, to prevent these accidents.
How close do you live to
I'm
this
in like in
planned
the,
development?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of 16 and Magnolia.
Okay.
So
Can
it's
you-
1524 North Arrowhead if you guys want to search it up.
So then you would certainly know about
Yes.
those concerns.
Correct.
Okay. I know that during the day, a lot of students, I see a lot of students that are walking from those neighborhoods, crossing the street to go to San Bernardino High School.
Correct.
And that's usually in the morning and when school is let out. I'm not aware of the evening.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission?
Through the chair, I have a question, and this is of staff. A few years back on the BBC, we had some conversation about a rental program or a program for landlords, and the city was involved in educating landlords, and there was a certificate program. Does that still exist?
It does. It's the CEPTED program. It's community design. I don't know exactly what it stands for, but it's actually 15.27 of the municipal code. Any apartment building with more than 4 units, the property owner has to go through a 8-hour training program. And then there are also rental inspections which are done annually of the property. And that is actually the rental inspection program is for any property which is rented in the city, residential property which is rented in the city, whether it's a single family house or an apartment building. So the property owner does go through a training program, and then the units are inspected on an annual basis.
annual basis so the landlord takes out a license, takes a yearly license out,
That is correct.
and then they go through an inspection process.
Yes.
And do they have a upgrading process or a re-educating process for the landlord?
I'm not that familiar with the crime-free rental family program. It's actually run through the community policing specialists in the police department. So I don't know what sort of, I know Steven's got the municipal code in front of him.
Sure, I can answer. I don't do enforcement for the city, but like Mark said, I am blessed with an iPad that has the municipal code in front of me. There is a certification program that does have 3 levels of certification: Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3. Phase 1 requires the 8-hour attendance at the city's training, a written lease addendum that's required by the city, criminal background checks on all tenants, and actively pursuit of eviction of tenants who violate the terms of the lease or the crime-free lease addendum. Phase 2 is an annual security assessment and security improvement inspection. And then they can have no unresolved city code violations for a year. And then if they want the Phase 3 certification, they conduct a resident training annually for the residents to develop basically like a neighborhood crime watch for the multifamily housing unit.
And this program is still active? And
That's my understanding, yes.
okay, great. So this would apply to this gentleman here with 8 units?
It would.
Okay. And you have other units in the city? Okay, have you been through this program? Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much.
I have one question. Did you have another question about this, Mr. Graham? I thought I saw you raising your hand before.
No, sometimes I'm just fidgety.
I see. I do have a question concerning the traffic problem that was mentioned by one of the speakers. I'm wondering if we can request the city traffic engineer to do a traffic study at those intersections. It's an offset intersection is what it is.
I can pass along the community concerns. Direction actually from staff comes through the city manager. So I can certainly make the traffic engineer that there are community concerns. That's probably the best way to handle it.
Good. Any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion adopting resolution number 2018-011, forwarding a recommendation to the mayor and city council, the adoption of the categorical exemption and approving Development Code Amendment 17-07 and Development Permit Type P 17-05 based on the findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions of approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Item 9, Development Code Amendment number 18-01 and Conditional Use Permit 18-02. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Item number 9 tonight, as mentioned, was Development Code Amendment 1801, Conditional Use Permit 1802. This is a request to amend Chapter 19.06 of the existing Development Code. It's the Commercial Zones chapter, to add a provision allowing veterinary services with animal boarding within the Commercial General CG3 zone, subject to approval of a conditional use permit. And then the second part of this project is to establish a veterinary office with animal boarding in an approximately 4,200 square foot tenant space of a previously approved commercial building. This site would be at 1775 West North Park Boulevard. As shown, this is just an excerpt of the existing land use table. Veterinary services with animal boarding is currently permitted with a conditional use permit in the other 2 commercial general zones. It was just excluded from the commercial general 3 zone. We're looking to make that uniform across the board and add it in all 3. sorry, the clicker's not working. Yes, there we go. As mentioned, the purpose stated within the development code of the commercial general CG3 zone is to provide, among other things, to provide for the development of local and regional retail and personal service uses, which we believe this type of use would definitely fall in that category. And as mentioned, this use is permitted in the CG1 and CG2 zones, but was excluded from CG3. And this also aligns with the proposed consolidation that we're looking to do with the update of the overall development code, where we would be consolidating all 3 commercial general zones, which would then result in a similar use provision. The veterinary service that's looking to go in, fairly straightforward. Typical operating hours for this type of use, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. during the week. 8 half days, just 8 to 1 on Friday, and then closed on Sundays. They have approximately 20 employees with about 6 per shift, and they would allow overnight boarding, but that would be exclusively for animals currently under treatment at the facility. This wouldn't be somewhere where, like a pet hotel or anything like that. The subject property, and I do apologize, this aerial is hasn't been updated since the development was going in. This is adjacent to the student housing project, just catty corner to the entrance of Cal State San Bernardino, at the corner of University and North Park Boulevard. There's some existing photos of the site. This is looking south from North Park. You can see one commercial building there on the left. There's a second commercial building where this proposed business would be located that is yet to be constructed, that would go in kind of in the area in front of the housing just to the right. This is coming in from University, looking across to the west. That's again the existing building. The other building would be built just behind that. And then you can see coming in that driveway where the other building would go, just kind of right in the center of the image. And then just as well from on-site, this is the existing pad where the new commercial building would be going. Commercial building already approved, by the way. Sorry, here's the site plan for the project. As I noted, this building over here is the one that you could see in the images we just showed. This is the new building that would be going in on that big dirt lot. The use itself would be in this portion, this last kind of square unit. Kind of shown again on the site plan or on the floor plan here. It would be, I do apologize, the image, it gets rotated when you go to the floor plan, but it is the large square unit at the far end of the building. And then these are the existing elevations that were approved for the building, so same type of architecture and everything as the other building that was already constructed. And our recommendation this evening is to adopt Resolution 2018-012, forwarding a recommendation to the Mayor and City Council to introduce the ordinance for the Development Code update, and then adopt a resolution for adopting the previous environmental determination from the development of the commercial center, and then approving conditional use permit 1802 based off the findings and subject to the conditions of approval. And with that, I do want to say staff, after conversation with the applicant, is looking to propose a modification to one of the conditions that was originally proposed. This would be on page 8 of the resolution. It was condition number 23. As was originally, there was some concern expressed by the Public Works Integrated Waste Division in previous review of the item about whether there was sufficient capacity for the refuse from the existing commercial and then what's still going to be under construction. The condition as originally written was saying as a certainty that the applicant would have to construct an additional enclosure. What we are proposing to do is actually to note that prior to issuance of any building permits on the site, the applicant does need to coordinate with Public Works Integrated Waste Division to determine whether, based off the new uses going in, whether that additional capacity would be necessary. It's hard to say right now with not everything being built and under operation, so they would need to make that determination before they could ever pull any building permits. If Public Works determines that it is necessary, then they would have to go in and look to see how they could add some additional capacity through either expanding or adding additional refuse area. And with that, I am done. We do have a representative of the applicant that is here if you do have any questions. Thank you.
I hear no questions.
I would like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2018-012, forwarding a recommendation to the mayor and city council the adoption of the previous environmental determination and approving development code amendment 18-01 and conditional use permit 18-02 based on the findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions of approval, including the modifications to condition number 23 listed.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I call for the question. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Item number 10, Plan Amendment 16-07. Staff report, please.
Yes. Item number 10 is General Plan Amendment 16-07, Development Code / Zoning Map Amendment 16-08, Conditional Use Permit 16-17, and Public Convenience or Necessity Letter 17-01. The proposed project is to change the land use designation of one parcel from single-family residential to commercial, and the zoning district of that parcel from residential suburban to commercial general 1 to gain consistency across the site for the purpose of constructing and establishing a service station with 6 fuel pump islands, a convenience store, and an express drive-through car wash located at 841 South Inland Center Drive within the commercial general CG1 and residential suburban RS zone. Currently, the project proposes a Type 21 license. The staff report mentions that we are recommending denial of that, and I'll get into some of the details of that later. But we do support the project as a whole. We believe that it's a good intersection for a service station and creates a buffer from the existing residential south of there to the freeway. Being located at what is considered a gateway into the city, that is a good location for a commercial use of that type. So you can see site design. We've got the car wash at the back fronting the freeway away from any of the residential properties. The pump islands are set back, and the convenience store, again, is also set back from the residential properties. If you take a look at the elevations, they've proposed kind of a modern industrial design, which will integrate well in that particular area. There's a mix of commercial and industrial uses. And here's some photos of the existing site. There was previously a mini mart at that location with a Type 20 ABC license that has since been demolished, and the site is ready for development. So the recommendation tonight is that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2018-013, forwarding a recommendation to the Mayor and City Council to adopt the mitigated negative declaration, approve General Plan Amendment 16-07, Development Code Amendment, Zoning Map Amendment 16-08, and Conditional Use Permit 16-17 based on the findings of fact and subject to the conditions of approval, and deny the Public Convenience or Necessity Letter 17-07 based on the findings of fact. The reason why we're recommending denial of the Type 21 is that we believe that a Type 21 license is too intensive a type of license for a service station, and that Type 21, which would allow distilled alcohol to be sold, should be limited to grocery stores and larger retail outlets. Additionally, the Type 21 license would allow distilled alcohol to be sold in a tract that is very, very much over-concentrated. Currently, 12 off-sale licenses are existing, while 2 are allowed. And I believe 3 of those are already Type 21 licenses. Additionally, the location is only just a little bit over 500 feet, I think approximately 525 feet away from Urbide Elementary School. And the PCN, the Public Convenience or Necessity Letter, failed to make an argument as to why a Type 21 would more meet the public's convenience rather than a Type 20. Staff would generally support a Type 20 license, but that is not what was applied for. A Type 21 was applied for, so we are recommending approval generally of the project, but denial of the Type 21 license. I can take any questions.
Questions, comments? If not, I'll ask for the applicant to come forward and present any information that you have.
Good evening. My name is Alex Musino. I'm address is 422 Wheel Road, front office in San Bernardino. I'm here tonight. Accompanying me are Doug Goodman from Doug Goodman Associates. He's our project engineer, and Jay Nelson of Archimetrics. He's our project architect. First of all, thank you for giving us this opportunity to be here. Finally, after 2 years, I did present a letter of support to Chantal last week, and I don't know if she circulated that letter with justifications for why, and I hope you read it because it does amplify the reasons why we're proposing a Type 21 license. Previously, before our case, there were 2 cases, same as ours. Same businesses, gas stations with C-store and car washes. One at the one at Mill and the on-ramp is in our track. In that approval, there was no mention of overconcentration or intensity of that business. However, in our case, those words intensity, intense, and overconcentration is used. However, if you look at page 4 of what I provided, you'll see that most of the businesses that have an ABC license are on the east side of 215. On our side, there's the AM/PM across the street, which is closer to the school that Chantal mentioned. It's closer than our location. And that business has been there about 2.5, 3 years at the most. Now, the reasons for denying this, as Chantal said, and I don't agree with it, is that there's an overconcentration. Well, if you look at our site, there's only the AM/PM and us on our side of the highway. All the other businesses that have an ABC license are on the east side. So I would not consider that an overconcentration. Obviously, for ABC, if you have one license in excess of what's permitted, it's overconcentration. But overconcentration to me would mean if I have a 10-ounce a bottle that holds 10 ounces, and I have 1 ounce of water and 9 ounces of alcohol, that would be an overconcentration. That is not the case here. Okay? Now, the intensity is not any different than the intensity that the other 2 cases before us will be providing to the consumer. We have a a site that's strategically located. It's a gateway to the city. Now, would the city prefer seeing a BevMo there? Predominantly alcohol. Now, does the development code permit our use? Yes, it does. And there's no mention in the development code that I know of that says that this type of use, ABC license, in conjunction to a gas station is not permitted. It's a conditionally permitted use, okay? So I don't know, and there's nothing in the code that says that it should be limited to supermarkets or establishments of that type. Perhaps the planning director, development director can correct me there.
You are correct. A conditional use permit is the appropriate request. I'll kind of amplify what Chantal said. This is really a policy which I've put in place since I've been here for 3.5 years. It is our position, my position, that and we've had a couple of other requests where we have told applicants the same thing, that the staff would recommend denial. They are certainly free to make their case before the Planning Commission. But given the issues that I have heard from the Planning Commission in the 3.5 years that I've been here, as well as the community, there is a very legitimate concern with overconcentration of all alcohol types. However, we're cognizant of the fact that the money is not made off the sales of fuel. Money is made off the sales of goods in the store, as well as beer and wine. So we have, from a staff position, kind of reached what we think is a middle ground. But yes, it is our position to recommend denial of all type 21s in conjunction with gas stations, and the applicant, just as he is doing this evening, is free to make his case.
Thank you. We are having a national brand there. National brand has very strict standards when it comes to management training, security, on-site video cameras, on-site lighting, etc. We try to we provide the highest level of security to our customers and to our employees. We're not requesting anything different than what's across the street. It's not a more intense business. It's the same. Our alcohol, our beer, alcohol, hard liquor, and tobacco sales do not exceed more than 18% of our C-store sales, our convenience store sales. That's just an added service or product to our consumer. So it's not that we're 90% into the alcohol business. It's 15 to 18% of our store sales. If we sell 100,000 a month in store sales, 15,000 or 18,000 is dedicated to beer, alcohol and beer, and wine and tobacco. Is that predominant? Is that intense? No, it isn't. That's just part of the business operation. We have over 25 C-stores, gas stations in 4 counties. We have stores here in San Bernardino, C-store, Arcos, and we have a 7-Eleven on Waterman and Mill. We have Arco AM/PM right across the street from that on the northeast corner. Here it's going to be a 7-Eleven. We've got 5 locations here in the city of San Bernardino. We want to grow with the city of San Bernardino. We're employing people and we're safe. We've proposed conditions, mitigations in our letter, but apparently the development director did not see fit to even consider them. So we're willing to work with the city to implement mitigation measures to reach a middle of the road here. That's what we're proposing.
Would you like to see this item continued for further study?
Further study by the Planning Commission?
Yes.
Yes, that'd be fine if we can continue. We've been in this process over 2 years, so that's another week or 2 is not going to kill us.
I have a question before
Yes,
moving forward. Of the 5 properties that are already within the city, do any of those 5 currently hold the type of ABC license that you're trying to acquire for the proposed site?
No, they don't. They don't, because those are stations that we purchased. We didn't build. This is the new build. As a matter of fact, we purchased an AM/PM that was owned by the RDA, that was fenced. Windows it was shuttered. We bailed the RDA out of that loss. They had guaranteed a loan to a hard money lender. We bailed them out, and within 3 months we had the new AM/PM operating at the northwest corner of 5th and Mount Vernon. And that's a testament to the capacity that we have. As a matter of fact, due to the neighborhood, which the concentration is a lot more intense Then this location, we had to put place a security guard at our own expense to keep our customers and our employees safe. And that's one of the mitigations that we proposed. If that is a condition that will be necessary, then we'll do it, because we're interested in the safety of our employees and the public that comes to our business.
Right, that makes sense. I frequent that gas station a lot, actually. It's not too far from my home.
Good.
With the proposed project that you're putting forward now on Inland Center Drive, how differently will that site be operating from the 5 other locations that you already have within the city of San Bernardino? Is there any significant difference as far as in the processes or the way that the business will be functioning?
No, it's a C-store convenience store. And why is it called a convenience store, a C-store? It's because we're there to provide a service or various services to the customer so they can get in and out, okay, as they're coming home or as they're going to work. This location is not the typical location, infill location or location where there's predominantly residential. This census tract only has 3,617 people, according to the 2,000 that live, and most of those people live northwest or southwest of us. Everything else, you've got the mall across the street. You've got all the commercial on Inland Center Drive to the northeast. You have the Orange Show fairgrounds. You have the school. You have the Autoplex. There isn't a lot of people, residents that live around our site. We're going to cater to the commuters coming through town, cross town, or using the highway. And of course, we're glad to cater to the residents. You know, if they're going to work or coming back, not a problem. That's why we're in business.
Thank you.
You're not just asking to sell beer and wine, you're asking to sell beer, wine, and distilled liquor. Spirit. That's what it says in your letter.
That's a license, correct. That's a license.
That's what your license is.
Type 21.
And
we have
if
that
you
license.
have concerns about whether areas are oversaturated, that's something that you need to really discuss with ABC. Do we know how many either type 20 or type 21 businesses are within the area that he's looking? I'm asking staff, please.
Within the census tract, there are 9 type 20 licenses, including the ARCO across the street, and 3 type 21 licenses.
And what did ABC designate for that area? Are
2
we over
2 off
concentrated?
sale, so
Okay.
that's 20 or 21.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, well, if I may, it's not an overconcentration. ABC has already has accepted our license. All they're waiting for is this PCN from the city. They've already accepted our application.
Yes, we know that, but
Okay.
They're
I'm
also
answering your
depending on
question.
the city wanting to change that
No,
to a 21. So
I
that's
understand
where
that.
the decision is made
No,
here
I understand,
and with the city council.
But my argument is, and support is, that the development code permits this. All of a sudden, if Mr. Persico has noticed this 3 years ago, then I think the city could have taken the initiative and modified or amended that development code. It hasn't been done. We went the extra mile to go ABC and apply for this type 21 for a new build, for a new location. And it's pending, and it's in exhibit number 5. You'll see on page number 5 that I presented, it says pending. Our status is pending. ABC has not argued or is not going to approve this site. They're just waiting for the PCN from the city of San Bernardino. And that's what we applied for, because it's a permitted use, conditionally permitted use under development code. And as I said, it's not more intense than the other business across the street, or the one that's going in on Mill, or the one going in at Muscoviabi and Highland. As a matter of fact, those are more intense areas. They're more concentrated in the immediate area with type 20 and type 21 licenses. Ours, we only have a type 20 across the street. That's it. Everything else is east of 215 along East Street. And you can see that on page 4 that I presented. You'll see, as a matter of fact, the tract below us to the southwest has more concentration than us.
I'll ask you about your letter.
Yes, sir.
I only have 3 pages.
There was two more. Let me. I'm sorry. This is the fourth page.
Okay. All right, just the map, okay.
Yeah, that's the map that shows the location of the ABC licenses right now.
Your staff report contains an analysis that Chantal put together in conjunction with the police department and ABC. So that information is already in the Planning Commission packet.
Through the chair, I also just wanted to bring the commission's attention to, it's not in this item, it's attachment E for item number 6. Actually contains a map of that census tract with all the ABC licenses, types labeled, and their locations marked as well.
As that I
Through the
presented.
chair, Chantel, can you bring that map back up, please? Or is that on this slide?
That was actually on another item. I didn't prepare that map because our recommendation was denial. Can we bring up, what is that, item number 6, you said?
6. It's track 124. And that's the same map that I attached to that letter.
I have a question for staff. In your recommended motion, I don't see anything about denying the type 21 license.
It's denying the public convenience or necessity letter. Where are you?
It doesn't say denying. Does it?
On
Page
the
one of the
staff report or
page
the-
1 of the staff report at the bottom says to deny.
I'm looking at the agenda.
The recommendation on page 6 of the staff report does say deny public
But it-
convenience or necessity
It doesn't
letter.
say that in the agenda that was presented to the public.
Well, because we don't, I don't know, in the agenda, but.
I read that before, but, I'm questioning why it's not shown in the public agenda.
Chair, Steve Graham. Item 10, the summary is what the request is. So the request is that you approve, the request comes from the applicant, that you approve the PCN. If you go to the recommended motion, which is on page 7, you're quite right. It does say that staff recommends adoption and approving. It should include language there and denying the public, the PCN letter. Because that is staff's recommendation to deny it.
But on that note, on the conditions of approval, item number 1 would need to be modified if the Planning Commission wants to follow staff's recommendation to deny the PCN. Currently, it says to allow, so we would need to, actually, I think just strike that line altogether because it would not be part of the conditions of approval.
Yes, I'm wondering about when we read the recommended motion, what changes would you put in there?
It would be from the staff report.
But we're working from the public agenda. They don't see the staff report.
Chair, the recommendation, if you look at the recommended motion, would be line 4 at the very end where it says and. So
Yes.
it goes conditional use permit 16-17 and. You would insert the word deny.
Yes.
Public
Okay.
convenience or necessity letter 17-01.
All right, I'm satisfied.
That would be what, if you were following staff's recommendation, that would be the proper wording.
Okay, that's
Thank
what
you.
that's what I was looking for.
Absolutely, Chair.
I have a question for the staff. Would a type 20 ABC license be appropriate for this type of project? Opposed to the
It's-
21 that they're asking for?
It still requires the same finding of overconcentration. As Chantal has noted, the ABC does not differentiate between types. We try to, from a staff perspective, try to hit the happy medium, recognizing again that what drives the business model of all of these operators is the convenience store. They're not making money off the sales of fuel. As was noted on the previous application tonight, standalone gas stations are a thing of the past. So what the business model is the sale of beer, wine, and potato chips, soda, water, so on and so forth. We, from a staff perspective, and the speaker is correct, we will be amending the development code to prohibit type 21s in conjunction with gas stations, because we fundamentally believe that that is given the issues that the community has, given the very clear mandate from the City Council and the public to address these very legitimate concerns, we have tried to come up with a happy medium. We could recommend denial of all type 20s in conjunction with gas stations. That might be a more appropriate way to go. We think that that would not foster redevelopment and reuse of properties within the city of San Bernardino. So we have tried to, again, come up with something that we believe we can recommend to the Planning Commission. It is always the Planning Commission's prerogative to overturn staff. We don't take this stuff personally. We make our best professional recommendations and then leave the final decision to the Planning Commission and then City Council on appeal if that's where it goes. But to answer your question, the same findings need to be made for a type 20 as a type 21. ABC looks at the exact same thing. This is clearly a staff policy, something which I put in place, and fortunately, we all agree from a staff perspective that there are impacts to the public that we don't believe can be mitigated with the sale of full alcohol at gas stations.
Thank you. And what was I about to say? Also, with if this project would have been proposed with a Type 20 license, would staff would have approved or recommended approval at that point? Yes. So what's the main difference that's causing staff not to recommend the project with the 21 license being proposed instead of the 20? Like, what is the determining factor that's pushing staff over the edge not to recommend this project, and how is that affecting our community? Is what I'm trying to grasp.
I'm not sure how to be more direct than that. And this is not a surprise to the applicant. We informed the applicant well over a year ago that we would not support a Type 21. So for the applicant to get up here and act surprised or indignant or whatever they're proposing to do, this is not a surprise. We don't believe, from a staff perspective, we don't want to surprise anybody. We tell people very early on, as early as we can in the process, what our recommendation is going to be and why we're recommending what we're recommending. We understand that these projects take time and take money to bring forward. So we, again, are trying to be very sensitive. But to answer your question, Mr. Commissioner Jones, it's full alcohol. That's the difference.
With the app, would you be willing to revise your proposal to meet staff recommendations with a Type 20 ABC license?
Well, I think that's what staff has done, but may I answer, Mr. Persico? It's not that we're surprised. As a matter of fact, in my memo to the Planning Commission, it states there I spoke with Mr. Persico and Ms. Chantal, and I knew I'm not hiding anything. I said I explained their position, what they told me, but I said, well, that's up to the Planning Commission and the city. You got a copy of the letter. It states clearly there that I spoke to you. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not acting surprised, so I don't know why you said that. Okay? Is that clear? I'm not acting surprised. Now, regarding a Type 20, there's no, They use the word intensity, over concentration. Well, what does that mean? I explained my little 10-ounce bottle. 1 ounce of water and 9 of alcohol, that's over concentration. No? 10 ABC licenses within 500 feet of each other, I think that would be over concentration, not one. This site used to have a type 20 license. And it was just a mom and pop, run of the mill, with people hanging around, homeless, right below us, coming up from the Caltrans property, coming up to the property. So we demoed that building. What we're trying to do is improve this location substantially. This is not an investment of $100,000. We're talking about $3.5 to $4 million. This is a major investment. And this is, when we get a brand, as a matter of fact, alcohol, Mr. Persico speaks about alcohol. There's McDonald's selling alcohol now. There's Starbucks selling beer and wine. There's Burger King selling beer and wine. Okay, that's alcohol. That's a new service they're providing to their customer. We're not going to, by selling alcohol, hard liquor, doesn't mean that our sales are going to, go up to the sky. No, we're just giving the customer another option.
How much are you anticipating your sales to be increased with this type of license?
Maybe 3%. Okay. Which is minimal.
That hard liquor is a high concentrated of alcohol, not the same as beer and wine. And I think my opinion is I appreciate that staff has done all of this work and have informed the vendor because they are listening to the community. We do have an over-concentration of outlets in that area, whether it's a type 20 or a type 21. But distilled spirits combined with gas stations, there is literature that cautions about that correlation. And I think all the staff was doing was listening to the community, speaking their concerns, as well as I think individuals on here. And you haven't answered really the question, because Commissioner Anthony posed the question, are you willing to do a type 20 given all of the investment that you're saying that you're doing?
For 3%.
If your distilled liquor is only, you said what, 3%?
No, I didn't answer because I want to respond to Mr. Persico's comment.
I think his question is still begging an
question,
answer.
Yes, yes, we would. However, your question regarding what's the difference between, adding alcohol, vodka or gin or scotch to your product list, what's the difference between that and beer and wine? There's really no difference. It's alcohol. People don't go in and buy a bottle of scotch and sit in the parking lot and drink it. They take it home. They take it home. They don't drink it in the car.
Yeah, but there still is a somewhat of, that's just like saying there's no difference between a handgun and an AR-15 because both of them shoot. I feel that
there's a big difference there. I'm sorry.
I feel that if alcohol is being served and it's being given to the public and it's being dispersed from that store where it's at into our community, I think that the level of the concentration of that can impact our quality of life as far as residents within the community.
Okay, what's the difference?
Is a type 20 license a viable option for this project?
It is, but then my question to you is, what's the difference between going to a bar that stays open, serves liquor till 2, beer and wine and liquor till 2, then getting in your car and driving home? I think there's more risk there than you coming to our store, buying a bottle of wine or beer or scotch and taking it home, putting it in a bag and taking it home. I think there's a big difference. And I don't think you're just appreciating that difference. Now, between an AR-15 and a handgun, there's a big difference. We just saw that in Florida. We saw it here in San Bernardino.
So there's a difference between a bottle of there's no difference between a bottle of hard liquor and a bottle of beer?
Of course there is if you drink it and drive, but
which is something that you can't control.
Well,
even though you follow the rules of closing at a certain time, checking ID and so forth, not even the vendors that we currently can't even control that.
You can't even do that with a type 20. I mean,
yes, that's what I'm saying.
Well, then in that case, you'd have to deny the other 2 cases before us. You haven't modified the...
Hey, I was overruled.
You haven't? Well, maybe that was correct. I'm sorry. But then again, that's... Mr. Persico said he talked about this 3 years ago. Well, between then and now, there's plenty of time to amend the development code. Why didn't you do it? Why make customers pay more money in applications, et cetera, and then to be denied? We're complying with the development code, but we have a development director who personally feels differently.
Can we move on, Mr. Chairman? Are there other people that are maybe wishing to speak in the audience?
One speaker's sheet on this. The applicant.
That was me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So apparently we don't have any other speakers wishing to speak.
So is type 20 a viable option for this moving forward?
It is as an alternative based on what you approved before. However, we're different than those two other approvals. Okay?
So in this case, it wouldn't be able to work then?
What, type 20?
Correct, yes, sir.
No, it would, because it's not any different than the ones you approved previously at Muscogee, Biabi, and Highland, and at Mill and Ice
Those were
Street.
both type 20 licenses.
Pardon me?
Those were both type 20
No, I understand
licenses.
that. So it wouldn't be any different. A type 20 for us would not be any different.
The
However,
state of California says there is a difference. That's why there is a type 20 and a type 21.
No, it's just depending on the products that you're allowed to sell. That's all it is. If you go to a restaurant, a sit-down restaurant, and they have a bar and everything, that's a type 41. So that's a different. They sell alcohol for local consumption, but they sell till 2. And then people get in the car and drive home. Here, our difference is we sell it to the consumer, and we trust that he puts it in his car and drives home and gets home and opens it up. We cannot control the consumer, but we try our best. When we see, based on experience, that there's somebody that's had too much to drink, we just won't sell to them. We have that experience. We've been in this business almost 30 years. No, that's, we go along with the conditions. Staff has worked hard with the other conditions of approval. This is the one that we object to because we feel that we have a right, based on being a conditional use, to get. And we can provide all the securities and guarantees that I mentioned in my letter to mitigate whatever concern, hours of operation, management training, etc. But Mr. Persico did not want to even listen to us.
Anything else?
No, that's it, sir.
I'm going to close the public hearing on this and call for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion adopting resolution number 2018-013, forwarding a recommendation to the mayor and city council the adoption of the mitigated negative declaration and approving general plan amendment 16-07, amendment 16-08, conditional use permit 16-17, and deny public convenience or necessity letter 17-01 based on the findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions of approval.
Also, condition number 1 was modified to strike the line about allowing the type 21 ABC license.
Including the modified conditions as well.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes no.
Chair, just for your information, because you have a general plan amendment and a development code amendment in front of you, it requires 5 votes of the Planning Commission to approve. So if you're voting no, then the general plan amendment and the development code amendment are not approved. So if that's the case, Chair, then the motion fails.
Would anyone like to present an alternate motion. What happens to the project at this point?
The City Council would consider the item without a recommendation from the Planning Commission.
So the staff report that the city council is going to get is simply going to note that a motion was made to approve the general plan amendment, development code amendment, and to deny the PCN, but that motion failed by a vote of 3-2 because the bylaws require a 5 vote. And they'll have that as their staff report when they consider the item when it goes to them.
Okay, I guess your next stop is the city council.
One question, if I may.
Sure.
You voted no for all of the motions, or, I mean, just to clarify.
They were all combined into one, so I objected to one part of it,
I
so
see. Okay.
I voted no.
Okay, that's what thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet. I wanted to ask, is anyone from item 9 still here? Good, because I forgot to call on you for public comments. And that concludes our agenda. Public comments, items not on the agenda. Planning Commission reports and announcements. I have one request. This staff report is 443 pages long. We get it on Thursday night, just before the weekend. I don't like to spend my weekends reading these things. They're very difficult to navigate. I would like to request that the staff work with the IT department and see if there is a way you can build in a linkable table of contents so that we can go to any item in the staff report without scrolling through 443 pages of material. I'd appreciate anything you can do.
We can certainly look into that. Adobe Acrobat does have a searchable feature on it, so it is possible to search by either topics, address, word search.
I'm aware of that. Director's report.
I have no report this evening.
Call for a motion to adjourn.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Have a motion in 2 seconds. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Meeting is adjourned.